model kit stuff and a first impressions video, this time focusing on a 172 scale Gloster Gladiator Mark 1 or 2 from Airfix. This is the 2019 boxing of a 2013 tooling. So the second release of this kit, basically exactly the same as the 2013 tooling, only with different decals and paint schemes. So this kit came out in the period just before Airfix started to really significantly up their game when it comes to aircraft. So I'm going to be interested to see what this looks like. So we have the familiar red box. We've got a nice piece of artwork there with a German aircraft in the background, showing what looks like black and white underneath. So that will be French markings or RAF in France markings, I would think, and what looks like the Belgian Air Force as well. It has the usual same on the sides as the top. Then we have the usual information and contact details, tells you it's 8+, and then on this side it tells us it's a skill level 1 and we get 1 flying hour. We've got the paint call outs for the 2 different paint options there. So you've got one row common to all, A and then B, and it tells you a little bit about them. So A is Gloster Gladiator Mark 2, number 615, County of Surrey Squadron, Royal Air Force. Can't quite read that upside down. Northern France, December 1939, so right at the start of the war. And this one is a Gloster Gladiator Mark 1, so we've got 2 different variants we can build. And that is Belgian Air Force 1938, just before the war. Possibly would have been like that as we went into the war. I don't know enough about it. Got a little bit of history there. So yeah, fairly standard stuff, but looks good. So let's have a look inside. So I've just cut the tape before we started filming, otherwise I have not looked in. We get, as we would expect, one bag with all the sprues in and what looks like a separate bag with the clear parts in, which is standard for Airfix. We have our instructions, and then right at the bottom we have a decal sheet. So let's have a look at the instructions first. So, as always with Airfix, we've got an A4 colour instruction booklet that's stapled. Front page is dedicated to a bit of history in a number of different languages. Tells you to clean your parts, as we always point out. So, yeah, and then as we turn over, that's interesting, we'll come to that in a sec. The front page carries on with a little bit of assembly instructions, so just some basic tips. Then you've got the key. It's all stuff we're familiar with if you've been watching my first impressions. And then we go to an older format of Airfix instructions. So when you see this, you know you're getting a slightly older kit format, design process, what have you. So I don't know enough about it to say how accurate this is. So what we'll be doing is just looking at the parts and telling you how well they seem to be made up. So let's start right at the top with step 1, and we are in the cockpit. Looks like we've got a fair amount of detail in the cockpit. Pedals already moulded in, so this is what I'm saying about just before Airfix started upping the game, change of management, change of thought process. So we've got separate bulkhead, we've got a seat there that's got some detail in at least. We've got some control sticks and a pilot. A little bit of drilling required there, doesn't tell you what size. Newer Airfix instructions would give you the size of the drill bit. It's just those little attention to detail that they now do that they didn't used to. And we've got some cutting to do as an option. I guess that's if you want to have the door open. As you can see there, we've got a part that we can attach for open. Then we've got machine guns going in there and showing it. That's nice. It's showing you the paint instructions, but that also gives you an orientation of the cockpit once it's gone in. The internals there, so that's nice. Building into the fuselage. No engine or anything like that. Two fuselage halves go together. Another option, I'm guessing that's depending on whether you're doing Mark 1 or Mark 2. So those are being removed for the Mark 2 version, the RAF version. Then and then in step 8, we're building up the dials and bits and pieces. So we've got some decals for that. So that should look quite nice as well. And then we are putting in the lower wing, which looks like that's all one piece because we're not put two halves together. So that'll be interesting to see. That worries me that we might have a load of sink. Anyway, and then we've got this part that we've built up here, which has the dials in and some form of bulkhead as well. And that also forms the struts for the upper wing. So that goes in along the panel lines. So that's a nicely thought out way of working. It's going to make those struts perfectly aligned. So you're not having to put separate struts in and they all wobble around slightly different angle. And then you've got to marry them with the top wing and then you throw it all in the bin because it's just too much like hard work. This is all done for you. Brilliant. Really like that. Let's flip her over. 10, we're starting up with the engine now. So as always with Airfix, it's giving you the colour shout outs as you go. Often they're showing you what that would be pre-weathered, sort of showroom condition colours. So, brand new pipework would be silver, but after a few flying hours, it's probably going to be a different colour altogether, the combination of heat and muck and weather. So think about what you want to do at this stage, how you want to present your model. I think I would be tempted to have painted your fuselage parts before we get to this bit. Anyway, builds up quite nicely with our, what we got there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts building up that front engine area before we put any cowling on. We've got the exhausts moulded into the lower cowling, so again, positioning shouldn't be a problem. And then the cowling going round. There's no reason why you couldn't leave that off if you wanted to show the engine internals a bit differently. Yeah, all nice. Then we've got the wing struts, the wingtip struts going in. Again, all moulded together rather than separate parts, which will be great for positioning. Whether they might be oversized as a result, I don't know, but we will see. Tail going in, and then the wheel struts and air intake or something like that. We can see the wheels going on, and it's giving you options. I'm not quite sure what those options are. Is it flat and non-flat? If it is, that's lovely, because that's an issue sometimes that we've started putting weighted tires in, but then you're limited to showing it not in the air. So if that gives you the option, that's brilliant. Big thumbs up. We've got geometry there, which is lovely. We've got the space in there, so that's also lovely. yeah, and the different the different wheel types. So weighted and in flight, perfect, nicely done, Airfix. Thank you very much. Then we've got some form of underwing cannons going on. Not quite sure what that is. Two different propeller types. I'm guessing that's Mark 1 and then Mark 2 with the little spinner caps. Now that's good. We're putting I don't know what that is, and it looks like an engine crank handle. I'm sure it's not, but it looks like it is. But these bits here, which I was worried may be a little bit thick, we're actually cutting out. So now all the glue's dried and the wings on and everything's held together, we're actually removing them. So they were only really there for positioning. So I like that. However, it does mean you're going to have a real issue with painting that, especially if the underwing is supposed to be black or something. So it could be that we glue that strut into place and have the top wing on just for positioning, and then take the top wing off for painting and then glue it on. Don't know. But again, the top wing looks like it's solid, so I'm worried about sync. I really am. Two canopy options, open and closed, which is always good to see, and standard, I guess, these days. Haha, lovely. Then step 26. So a very small 172 aircraft, 26 steps. That's not bad at all, is it? We've got a rigging diagram, and not just front on. We've got it in side profile as well for the different areas. So E, so you can see it side on there. So this looks like that. And then you've got, where's A? That's the supports there. D in profile there. So you've got all the angles. We'll have a look at the wings in a moment and see if we've got little dimples where we can fit these. And then they cross-reference that with the positioning on the wings. And it looks like we do have some form of markers. And we've got rigging for the tail as well. So that is really nice. Get your easy line out, boys. I think actually, if you do this is probably a skill level 2 at this point. Everything else I can see skill level 1, but that is lifting it up a gear. So if you're going to rig it, you probably want to be closer to a skill level 2 kit in terms of you've done 1 or 2 and your competency doing that. Right. Paint chart. So we have camouflaged top. Looks to me like we have a darker colour on top than we do lower down. You see that looks darker somehow. Yeah, dark green, dark earth. Maybe that's just the way it's printed. Don't know. There's something. It's not quite in register, this coloured print. It's slightly out of focus. Can you see? It's a bit fuzzy. So that's not helping. But we have the black and white underside of the fuselage wings and tail, which I quite like. I've done a Hurricane like that, and it does look really quite good. And then we've got the decals being called out as well, and the stencils. So all those little red squares are decals. So we've got a decent number for a small aircraft. And then when we flip over, we will have, see, that's much sharper. That's in register. My eyes are happier. So we have the markings for the Belgian Air Force. Interesting propeller. Pale stone it's calling for there. And then the front of the propeller's got a green edge. Would have been nice if they'd perhaps done a decal for that. And then so all green, this sort of olive drab colour, and then underneath is actually aluminium colour. So yeah, interesting. Similar number of decals, I would think. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. Let's have a look at the decals as we're talking about them. So, decal sheet, usual sort of size for 172, and the same format as you always get from Airfix, with common at the top, and there's actually a surprising good number of them. So we've got stencils, dashboards, anti-slip walkway bits, loads and loads of decals there. And then we've got the Air Force version, the Belgian Air Force version. Really just national markings and registration on both of those. But quite a few decals all in all. The cartograph, so they're a beautiful thing in terms of colour and registration, sharpness. Virtually no additional carrier film, with the exception of that and that where there's spacing needed, but thing of beauty as always. With my magnifying glasses on, I can see the little ribs there on the engine piston parts there. There's a bit of seam to clean up, more than you'd expect now, but nothing major. The tail is lovely, got a bit of texture. Again, soft moulded, so not as crisp as you would perhaps like, but it's not bad at all. We have a little bit of flash on the fuselage, which I missed without my glasses on. Then we have, this was the floor, wasn't it, of the cockpit. So moulded on pedals, but they're tiny. Some floor texturing. That's the fuselage nose top, which has got some lovely texturing again. It's all soft moulded. You're just going to have to live with that, but underpaint will look fine. Quite a fair amount of cleanup on these. As much as I love the idea of this going in and then being cut out, the cleanup of those tabs makes that a bit problematic. So it's probably doable that we glue those in, but I'm absolutely adamant that we don't do it with the top wing on and then try and clean those up. As much as it'll be stable, it'll be difficult to get in and to paint them. Although when I build this, it's going to be a beginner's build, so we will be painting it with the brush, not the airbrush. I'm not sure if that's damage or what that is. I think it's slightly bent, but that's the bit we cut off for the Mark II version anyway. Not that I've decided which one I'm doing. The pilot, standard Airfix pilot, I think actually quite detailed. Quite like the pilot. Those are the wheel hubs, bit of flash on them. Gates are quite big actually. Not too bad for the period of time that that this was originally tooled for Airfix, I should say. Other people were doing a lot better than this at that period of time, but this is all right for Airfix. Let's have a look at the next one. Right, Sprue B has these solid wings on, and they are really quite heavy. So I'm just looking at them, and I'm looking for several things. Firstly, they're absolutely covered in release agent, and I'm now covered in it. We've got, because they're solid, we've got sort of soft formed holes for those struts. So how well those struts are going to fit in there, I'm not sure. We've got nice texturing, and believe it or not, I cannot see any sink in there at all. So that's actually really quite nice. I can even, I don't know if it's my imagination, but I can even see cross members. That's really nice. Again, it's all soft moulded, so everything's a bit sort of, well, not quite crisp really, I suppose. But no, that'll look all right under paint. Then we've got this bottom of the engine ring with the exhaust, and they've done an attempt at opening up the exhaust. A little bit of more drilling out will make that look a little bit better. Bit of seam clean up, but that's okay. Then we've got those forward struts, and again, this is all hard plastic, so it's not going to bend around like it might have done in the past. Cannons, and then we've got the two wheel options with separate front hubs but molded in back hubs. There's no detail on the tires at all, but I like the fact that we've got joint options. There's holes there for a stand. If you've got the stand that they actually supply, you can drill those out with a smaller drill, cut between them and make your slot, so it does work. Cannons, yeah, it's not too heavy on the part count. It's not massively amazing in terms of detail, but the basic components are there. So a nice little weekend build possibly. So this is Sprue D. So what they've clearly done is they've done some sprues that cover the main components of the aircraft and then additional sprues for different variants. Now, if you're doing the Mark II, you want this propeller, and it's very, very thin. It's really nicely done. Unfortunate that we've got connection points on not on the center point, but I'm sure that was because they had no option. Interestingly, we've got some skis which aren't used in either of these two. So whether they were in the first release, I don't know, or whether we've got another variant coming. But yeah, so we've got the two skis there, which are quite nicely detailed actually. I imagine there would be more detail on this upper surface. You've got the shoes there for them, which would fit in there, and then that mounts into where your wheels would go, and then not quite sure what that is, and what looks like a pair of slippers. Not quite sure what that is either, but I think they go into there, so probably got all something to do with this skis assembly, I think. Sure we could work it out. Anyway, that's not what we're going to do for now, but I will be keeping those. So I think you're only going to use the propeller off this. Really thin blades, lovely. And finally, Sprue C, clear parts. We have the components there for two different types of closed canopy and two different types of windshield with an open canopy. Distortion is significant actually. I've definitely seen better often. It's definitely not up to Airfix's current standard. Having said that, at this scale, I'm not sure how noticeable it'll be. The forward panels are really not bad at all. It's the side panels where there's a bit of shape to them that we've got a bit of an issue, but most people don't worry about it. So there we have it, the Airfix 1:72 scale Gloster Gladiator Mark 1 or Mark 2, depending on which way you want to go. What are my first impressions? Okay, let's be honest. If you want to build the ultimate Gloster Gladiator, this is not the kit to buy. There is nothing wrong with this kit. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's a bit soft moulded. That's a reflection of when it was tooled. But there is some nice thought processes in there in terms of being able to set all these bits and pieces correctly, helping you with the geometry and that sort of stuff. Lots and lots of nice little thoughts in there. The texturing's good. It's just a little bit soft, that's all. Two sets of wheels, really nice. I think this will build up to quite a nice little representation in small scale. It's the perfect little weekend build, change of pace, just finished a big project, want to do something quick. Nice little addition to your fleet of 172s. I've never built a Gloster Gladiator before, so I'm quite looking forward to doing this. At some point we're going to build this as a beginner's model, so it'll be basic tools and techniques, paintbrush, not airbrush, and that sort of stuff. But we might do it as with some EZ line and show you how to do some rigging for the first time. Won't be dead easy actually because of the solid wings. If you have wing halves, it's actually easier, but we could always go down the route of stretch sprue. So yeah, lots of things to think about. Nice little kit, I think. Just a little bit of fun, and that's what the hobby's about, having a bit of fun. So no reason not to get that if you're up for a weekend or something different. Okay, you now know what's in the box, so I hope that was helpful, or at least interesting. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.